What if the president of a country was digitally erased, not with a bullet, but with a video? When deepfakes turned the world against Ibrahim Traoré, one whispered lie spread faster than any truth. And just when it seemed all was lost, a global alliance led by youth and one US congresswoman rose to fight back, not with weapons, but with wisdom. This is the story of the digital war you never saw coming, and why it might be your battle next. Watch until the end. At first, it was just another clip, a shaky video circulating on TikTok and X, supposedly showing President Ibrahim Traoré in a dimly lit room declaring a violent purge against political opponents. His voice was low, his words chilling. The caption read, "This is the truth they don't want you to see." Within an hour, it had over 5 million views. Then came another, and another. In one, Traoré appeared to confess to rigging the last provincial elections. In another, he laughed as he signed off on orders to shut down power grids in northern villages. The grainy footage gave it the illusion of being secretly recorded, raw, believable, dangerous. It didn't take long for the global media to catch on. Major news outlets, short on verification and hungry for clicks, ran with the headlines: African strongman exposed, Burkina Faso president behind civil repression. In Ouagadougou, the protests started quietly. Within 48 hours, students were clashing with riot police in Accra. Civil unrest spread like wildfire. Traoré remained publicly calm, but inside his cabinet, the mood shifted. Advisors panicked, allies grew cold, funding partners withdrew. From Paris to Pretoria, leaders began to distance themselves from the man whose digital image was rapidly crumbling. Across the ocean, in a Washington studio, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett watched the clips with uneasy eyes. She had met Ibrahim Traoré in person during a diplomatic roundtable in Nairobi months earlier. She remembered his composure, his conviction, but what she saw online now didn't match the man she had spoken to. Something was off, deeply. In the Senegalese capital of Dakar, a young journalist named Amadou Dembélé had the same instinct. While global outlets were chasing clicks, Amadou went deeper. He pulled metadata, reverse-searched file origins, and consulted with open-source researchers. What he found was damning: digital fingerprints inconsistent with Traoré's known online presence, video shadows behaving unnaturally, compression anomalies, deepfakes, highly sophisticated ones. But by then, the damage had begun. Traoré released a short video response, direct, unscripted. "Do not believe the screen until you hear the truth in your heart," he said. "Our story cannot be rewritten by cowards hiding behind code." His words were powerful, but nearly drowned out in the digital storm. The problem wasn't just falsehood, it was speed. Lies now traveled faster than truth. And in an age where attention is currency, he was losing both. Something had to be done. Because this wasn't just a political hit, it was a digital coup. While misinformation raged in the open, the real war was already underway. Silent, complex, and fought through glowing screens in rooms no bigger than classrooms. In a secured facility on the outskirts of Addis Ababa, young minds huddled over rows of laptops, the air thick with the hum of machinery and urgency. They were coders, cybersecurity analysts, digital forensics experts, most under 30. They had been quietly recruited over the last year by President Ibrahim Traoré, not because they held titles, but because they understood the battlefield of the future better than most world leaders did. They called themselves the Digital Guardians of Africa. Their mission was as audacious as it was necessary: to protect the continent's digital integrity and sovereignty from the next generation of colonialism, not one of boots and bullets, but of bots and bandwidth. What was happening to Burkina Faso could happen to any African nation, and the enemy didn't need tanks to win, just software. Across the Atlantic, Jasmine Crockett had begun her own counter-offensive. Disturbed by how quickly the false videos had overtaken public discourse, she reached out to an old friend, Marla Rodriguez, a retired NSA cryptographer now teaching at Stanford. Together they assembled a small think tank of policy students, disinformation researchers, and former intelligence officers. Their goal wasn't to fix Burkina Faso's politics, it was to expose the method behind the lie. As Crockett listened to reports pouring in about AI voice cloning, synthetic video mapping, and coordinated amplification networks centered in London and Warsaw, she felt the chill of what Traoré had warned her months ago. They won't fight us with weapons anymore, they'll fight us with stories. But one story pierced through the algorithms, a letter handwritten in blue ink delivered to Traoré's office by a courier from a primary school in Bobo Dioulasso. It was from a boy named Malik, age 9. In shaky French, he had written, "Are you still our president? Mama says you are, but the TV says you're not. Did the internet take you away?" Traoré read the letter twice, then a third time, and for the first time since the deepfakes began, he leaned forward at the war table and said, "Start recording everything. If they're stealing our voice, we will speak louder." The Guardians began logging digital trails, tracing fake account clusters back to a private intelligence firm in London, Rector Strategies, known for its shadowy influence in election manipulation. But who paid them, and why Burkina Faso? In Washington, Crockett's team found the missing link, buried in leaked emails. The firm had contracts with a shell company backed by energy conglomerates recently denied mining access in northern Africa. This wasn't random, it was calculated, and now they had proof. Even with the source identified, the problem was far from over. The damage was still cascading in real time. On social media, falsehoods spread faster than the corrections. Each hour brought a new wave of edited videos, manipulated headlines, and coordinated outrage. They were relentless. The very platforms that connected the world were now being used to sever trust between people, between nations, between truth and those who desperately needed it. In Lagos, a video went viral showing a mother clutching her young son at a crowded bus stop. She refused to let him go to school, tearfully explaining to a reporter that she had seen President Traoré's order to attack schools. The video she referenced was fake, but she didn't know that. No one had told her otherwise. In a world of too much information, the lie had simply arrived first. This moment hit hard for Ibrahim Traoré. In a secure press room, he watched the footage on loop. He didn't blame the mother. He blamed the silence between the truth and the people who needed it. And in that silence, he decided to do something radical. With the help of the digital guardians, he launched a continent-wide truth campaign called Number We Post Back. It was simple. Volunteers, mostly between the ages of 18 and 25, would monitor social media in their own countries, flag false content, and immediately respond with clear, verified context. But they didn't stop at debunking. They humanized, they showed faces, they told the stories behind the truth, and the world began to pay attention. In Baltimore, a group of high schoolers, inspired by the campaign, developed a TikTok series comparing fake and real videos of Traoré side by side, breaking down how deepfakes were made and how to spot them. Their most viewed clip, "Don't Believe Everything with a Logo," was shared over 12 million times in 1 week. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett went on live television in the US, breaking through the noise with a single, piercing message. If it can happen to a president in Africa today, it can happen to a mayor in New York tomorrow, or a teacher, or your child. This isn't their problem, it's our future. Her words echoed beyond screens. News anchors paused, panels went quiet. The threat wasn't distant anymore. It had a timestamp. It had fingerprints. It had a face. Back in Burkina Faso, young Malik, whose letter had shaken Traoré weeks before, watched his president speak live for the first time since the digital assault began. This time, the video was real. No edits, no distortion. And as Traoré looked into the lens and said, "You were never lied to by me," Malik whispered to his mother, "He's back." But the truth hadn't just returned. It had found defenders, and they were young, they were online, and they weren't backing down. By now, the tide had begun to turn, but only just. While the deepfakes were exposed and the machinery behind the smear campaign was increasingly understood, trust remained fragile. President Ibrahim Traoré knew that proving his innocence in private wasn't enough. The people needed to see not just that he hadn't fallen, but that he stood for something even stronger now, a future that couldn't be manipulated. So he took the boldest step yet. From a sound stage in Dakar, Senegal, surrounded by young digital activists, students, and coders from across the continent, Traoré launched the Pan-African Youth Cyber Summit. Over 30 African nations sent youth delegates. 10 student delegations arrived from the US, including policy majors from Howard, MIT, and UCLA. The summit wasn't just symbolic, it was a statement. The future of Africa's digital identity would not be outsourced. No speeches from diplomats, no filtered panels, just youth at the center, leading, shaping, rebuilding. One by one, young speakers took the stage. A girl from Namibia shared how her rural community fell victim to a fake WhatsApp alert that caused days of chaos. A young man from Ghana recounted how a forged audio recording nearly cost his cousin his life. Their stories were raw, real, and undeniable. Then came Jasmine Crockett, streaming live from her office in Washington. Her tone was clear, confident, and urgent. "We are witnessing the first generation of digital citizens who have more access to information than any in history," she said. "And yet that power means nothing if we do not protect its integrity. What you're building here today, this is not a conference, it is a constitution for the age of truth." Applause erupted across the room. It wasn't polite, it was electric. For the first time in weeks, the energy shifted from defense to offense. Out of the summit came something tangible, a proposal from the Digital Guardians of Africa, a blockchain-based authenticity badge. Every verified government communication, from Burkina Faso to Botswana, would include a digital seal proving its origin. No more faceless lies passed off as policy. The code was open source, free to adopt, built by youth. In their closing joint message, Traoré and Crockett presented what they called the Digital Ethics Accord, a public commitment to transparency, education, and global cooperation in countering information warfare. It was signed digitally by all 40 nations present, along with dozens of civil society groups and academic institutions worldwide. By the end of the summit, something had shifted, not just in the headlines, but in people's hearts. Truth wasn't just being defended, it was being reclaimed. And this time, it had a new kind of army, one made not of weapons, but of wisdom, code, and conscience. In the days following the summit, the global conversation changed. Major networks that once ran unverified footage of Ibrahim Traoré now issued corrections and clarifications. Social media platforms scrambled to enhance transparency labels. Even skeptical voices in foreign parliaments admitted, however reluctantly, that the attacks on Burkina Faso were part of something larger, more dangerous than politics, a coordinated war on truth itself. But for Traoré, the victory wasn't in the headlines, it was in the quiet restoration of trust. He returned to Ouagadougou to the sound of cheers, not as a man who had survived a scandal, but as one who had stood through a storm and taught others how to stand with him. And in one final gesture of grace, he reread the letter from Malik, the young boy who had once asked if the internet had stolen his president. This time, the letter was different. It simply read, "Thank you for coming back." Across the ocean, Jasmine Crockett returned to her district with a deeper sense of purpose. She hosted a public forum in Atlanta titled "Truth is a Civic Duty," where students, journalists, teachers, and parents gathered not just to talk, but to listen, reflect, and learn. She didn't speak first, she listened. And when she did take the mic, her message was simple. We can't wait for truth to knock at our door. We have to go out and defend it, together. The forum sparked similar gatherings in Detroit, Minneapolis, Nairobi, and Accra. What had started as a crisis became a movement, a reminder that in the age of viral deception, sincerity is revolutionary. Misinformation may travel fast, but conviction endures longer. From the digital guardians of Africa to US classrooms, young people began developing their own watchdog networks, educational campaigns, and fact-checking tools. Tech companies began receiving public pressure to elevate verified grassroots content. A mural appeared overnight on a wall in downtown Nairobi depicting Traoré and Crockett side by side, painted with vibrant colors under a simple phrase, "Real leaders log in with their hearts." The mural went viral, not because it was flashy, but because it felt earned, authentic. In a world where noise so often drowns out meaning, this story stood apart. Not because of perfect speeches or viral clips, but because people across borders and generations chose to care enough to resist lies and reclaim the signal. That's the power we hold now, not just in our hands, but in our hearts, our choices, and the communities we're willing to protect. And if we remember that, if we carry it forward, then even in the darkest feed, we'll know how to find the light. Let me know if you'd like a reflective conclusion, video hook, or audience engagement segment to go with this series. In a world where deception moves faster than understanding, the digital coup was more than a crisis. It was a test of leadership, unity, and human integrity. At the center stood Ibrahim Traoré, a president whose identity was digitally hijacked in an international campaign meant to fracture his credibility and destabilize his country. But instead of collapsing under the weight of viral lies, he leaned into something more powerful than any algorithm: truth, protected and amplified by people who believed in it. By his side, across continents and political aisles, stood Jasmine Crockett. She recognized that what was happening in Africa was not isolated. It was a glimpse into a future we're all hurtling toward, where the battle for facts is no longer just about what's true, but who gets to define it. Together, she and Traoré refused to let fiction dictate fate. They chose action over apathy, dialogue over division. What makes their story extraordinary isn't just that they stopped a digital attack, it's that they reclaimed something deeper, human trust. With the help of young people, grassroots organizers, and technologists, they reminded the world that facts aren't fragile when we choose to defend them. From Malik's heartfelt letter to the summit in Dakar, from Baltimore classrooms to Nairobi murals, this wasn't a story of collapse. It was a story of a rising of awareness, a rising of accountability, a rising of courage. The lesson? In today's world, truth is not automatic, it's intentional. You have to pause, look closer, and sometimes fight for what's real, especially when it's inconvenient or unclear. And most importantly, you have to protect the truth not just with tools, but with heart. You may not be a politician or cybersecurity expert, but in your everyday life, whether you're scrolling through news, reposting a headline, or engaging in a conversation, you hold incredible influence. The next time something makes you angry or afraid, pause. Ask, is it real? Is it fair? Is it helping someone or hurting everyone? That small moment of reflection could be the difference between adding to the noise or guiding someone toward clarity, because the truth isn't just out there. It's something we build together, post by post, conversation by conversation. If this story resonated with you, challenged you, or made you think more deeply about the digital world we all live in, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support is more than a number. It tells us that stories like this matter, that truth still has a place in our shared future. We're committed to bringing you more stories that inform, inspire, and ignite meaningful change. And with your help, we'll keep going. Thank you for watching. Stay thoughtful, stay curious, and above all, stay human.